and welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and these are the top diabetes stories and headlines of the past 7 days. All sources are linked up at diabetes-connections.com. In the News is brought to you by T1d Exchange. T1d Exchange is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving outcomes for the entire T1D population. The ATTD Conference is underway. That's the Advanced Technologies and Treatments for Diabetes Conference. You can expect to hear a lot of news. I'll include some here, some next week, and we've got future interviews lined up with a lot of the companies making headlines. First up, a peek at more features in Dexcom's G7 system. It's approved in Europe, but not the US, and features what they're calling more meaningful alarms. You can silence more alarms, including urgent low and sensor fail for up to 6 hours. There's also a new 12-hour grace period at the end of the 10-day sensor life. It's already been announced the G7 has a much shorter warm-up period, only half an hour, and is much smaller. Also at ATTD, Beta Bionics will be releasing pivotal trial results of the Islet Bionic Pancreas. The Islet is a pump connected to a CGM designed to autonomously determine and deliver insulin doses to control blood glucose. You'll recall this pump was originally designed to deliver both insulin and glucagon, but the current iteration is insulin only. They say the pivotal trial population was more diverse and representative of the U.S. type 1 diabetes community than any previous pivotal trial of an AID system. We'll have more info on what those trials actually said next week. The first automated insulin delivery system using the Freestyle Libre has been announced. This is in Europe, and it's Libre 3 Ypsomed pump and CamDiab software system. Expected by the end of the year, this is described as a self-learning app, a hybrid closed-loop system that runs on an Android smartphone and can be used in people as young as 1 year old. And a new consensus meeting on time in range is happening at ATTD. In 2019, Diatribe formed the Time in Range Coalition, their goal to ensure that time in range becomes the primary glucose metric for daily management. But there isn't an international consensus on the use of CGMs in clinical trials. This meeting could help standardize those methods. Other highly anticipated or at least well-publicized studies coming to ATTD include those from Tandem and Omnipod and almost every big diabetes tech company. Lots more to come next week, and down the line, we already have interviews set up with Dexcom and Beta Bionic, and I'm sure I'll be talking to many others. In other news, overtreating type 2 diabetes is apparently very common in nursing homes, which can be a big problem as people get older and may require dosing changes. A new study in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society shows about 40% of nursing home residents with type 2 may be overtreated. These researchers say one big issue is that at admission, residents are given a very big medical workup, but that isn't followed up on year to year. Often as people age, it's recommended their A1C is maintained a bit higher for safety reasons, so a target A1C could easily change months or even years after someone moves into assisted care or a nursing home. Right back to the news in just a moment, but first, we've got a new sponsor. As I mentioned, the T1d Exchange Registry is an online research study designed to harness the power of individuals with type 1 diabetes. This is a study conducted online over time designed to foster innovation and improve lives of people with T1D. Once enrolled, participants will complete annual surveys and have the opportunity to sign up for other studies on specific topics related to T1D. By sharing opinions, experiences, and data, patients can help advance meaningful T1D treatment, care, and policy. Sign up at t1dexchange.org/Stacey, that's STACEY. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. New survey looking at how people with diabetes rate their grocery stores. From DQ&A, this was a big survey, more than 5,000 people. They say statistically representative of all people with diabetes in the U.S., and they found more than half of people with diabetes did not feel very supported in maintaining their preferred eating habits at home. 28% of low-income people with diabetes find it somewhat or very challenging to find their preferred foods when grocery shopping. Stores rated best were Aldi, Publix, Costco, H-E-B, and Hy-Vee. The worst rated were BJ's, Vons, Shaw's, Ralph's, Tops, and Randall's. Well, last year, she made big news by walking the runway with her Omnipod visible, but this year, model Lila Moss is, we think, the first person with type 1 on the cover of Vogue magazine. She did an interview with them that's on YouTube. I will link up the video. She says she has an Apple AirTag attached to her Pod personal controller. Going through her handbag essentials, she included glucose tabs and talked about how her diabetes is something she doesn't keep hidden, but just isn't always visible. Nice to see a matter-of-fact interview featuring Type 1. She also has some pretty cool sunglasses and a little mirror and all sorts of stuff you'd expect to see in a young model's handbag. On this week's long-format episode, you'll hear from Civica RX. This is the company pledging to produce and sell insulin without making a profit. We'll hear why they think this will work and how soon it'll be available for purchase. And next week, we're talking about a new mental health conference for people with diabetes. It is virtual, so you can participate from anywhere. And we have the organizers on, not to talk about the conference itself, but to answer some questions about the emotional energy and how much work it takes with your brain to live well with diabetes. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. And that is it for In the News this week. Quick note, I posted in the Diabetes Connections Facebook group that I'm having a problem with my voice this week. It's still there. It's definitely better. I'm so glad I was able to do this episode, but I apologize if I sound like I have some cotton in my mouth or like I just came from the dentist. If you're not hearing things, hopefully I'll be back at full speed pretty soon. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you back here in just a couple of days for our next episode.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.